Warning, due to some language and subject matter, listener discretion is advised.
Back in my band days, I wrote a song called In the Heart of Matters. And there was a line where I sang, in the heart of matters, it's the heart that matters most. And in the heart of an athlete, it is very similar to a servant's heart, to where a person strives to be better today than they were yesterday. My next guest is a world-class judoka, gymnast, cheerleader, and now MMA fighter who made that transition at the nudge of a well-known friend. I had a blast talking to my new friend, Pauline Pita Macias, and I'm really excited to see where her career goes next, and I think after listening to this episode, you will be too. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not very often when I make a new friend and I start off right away by calling them a pain in the ass. Yet here we are. Pauline Pita Macias, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. What's the weather like in Las Vegas right now? I imagine hot.
It's hot. Actually, today wasn't as hot as it's been, but for the most part, it's been really hot.
Yeah, so you've lived in California, Las Vegas, and Colorado.
And Tennessee.
Oh my gosh. So, Tennessee? So where's it the most comfortable?
I feel like I'm most comfortable like at home in Los Angeles, just because it's my home. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to lie. I love Vegas. I never in a million years would have thought, because, you know, I grew up coming to Vegas all the time. I'm from Los Angeles. So you just grow up going to Vegas all the time. And I never in a million years that I think I would love living here as much as I do.
That's awesome. So without any further ado, why don't you introduce yourself and let's talk a little bit about your origin story.
My name is Pauline Pita Macias. Pita standing for pain in the ass. There we go. I've had that nickname since before I was born. So, and we can get into that too. But basically I started when I was at like around, I did sports my entire life, but judo, cheerleading, and gymnastics were my three main sports. Growing up my whole life, those ones I did consistently. It just turned out I was really good at judo. I was good at all the sports, but I like judo as I got older. I just loved it more and more and more. And it was taking me all around the world. You meet amazing people and you get to travel the world and do what you love. Like, you know, not many people can say they get to do that.
Right.
So yeah, I don't even know how many years, well over 20-year judo career. And so once I graduated high school, the Olympic Training Center moved me to Colorado Springs so I can train at the Olympic Training Center full time for judo. So that was awesome. That facility is incredible. I don't know if many people have been to it, but they do free tours. You should definitely go check it out.
I actually spend a lot of time in Colorado Springs. I try and go like twice a year. So
really?
And it's funny because I see the marker signs when I'm driving by and I'm like, man, I got to check out the Olympic Training Center. I always psych myself up too when I go there because we usually stay in Woodland Park, which right outside of Manitou Springs. And I always psych myself up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the Manitou incline. And I never do it.
You never do it?
I'm assuming you have.
Oh, yeah. I used to do it like a couple times a week sometimes. So.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah. Terrence Bud Crawford, who's from Omaha, he goes out there and I heard that he does that climb every Sunday and he runs it. I don't know if I could do it. I don't know.
I believe it. Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely not. You know, I know a lot of people every year, a ton of people like come to visit. And like just thinking they can go and walk it. But if you don't train for that, like it can be really dangerous.
Word. If I heard and read correctly, you started judo about age 7 and your younger brother started before you?
Yeah, he was 4 when he started.
Oh my goodness. So let's talk about that a little bit because that's a pretty young age for anybody to start martial arts.
Yeah, you know, and at the time I was already like heavily into gymnastics, because by the time you're 7, you're already trying to train like for the Olympics practically, and so I was so strong and like so flexible, and I just really had a really good air sense. Like I had to be able to flip upside down and know exactly where I was in the air. And that like really transferred over to judo immensely, because I would get these people and I'd throw them. And in my mind, I could feel where they were in the air and whatnot. And that's how like the throws really, they just came really natural to me. It was like one sport that really made sense to me.
For sure.
And I was like I was like this little ripped kid. I mean, I still have abs, but I mean, I was like ripped with abs just like that as a kid. But and my brother had started it when he was 4, so about I think like a year before me. And my original judo coach, his name was Steve Bell. He's from England, and he was just trying to build up the judo club. And he was like, "Oh, you should do judo." And my parents were like, you know what? It'd be good for her to learn something to like defend herself. I when I was I don't remember how old, but it was younger than 7. Some kids like at school, like, I don't know, pushed me down or what, but remember when steel toe boots were really in the 90s, and these kids, like, they like kicked me in my ribs. And I came home with like bruised ribs. My parents were like, why didn't you do anything about it? I was like, well, because if I fight, I'm going to get in trouble. Like in my mind, I just didn't want to get in trouble. So I let them like kick me like,
oh wow,
and like bruise my ribs and all this stuff. And so, and they weren't even, I don't think they were, I don't know. It's weird. I like barely remember that, but it was something I think that kind of sticks with you, And so my parents were like, well, it'd be good for her to do something and like that she can defend herself. And judo was created for a smaller person to beat a bigger person. And I mean, I've never been the biggest person in the world. I try, man. I'm still working out my height, but but and so it was awesome. And then my younger sister did it for a while too. We all my dad even did it for a little while. Even my baby sister, who's only 9 now, but she even did it for a short bit. Oh, it's just like, I don't know. We all just did judo. It's just a very great sport to know.
Yeah.
But then like the competitive side, man, I just fell in love with it. I loved going to tournaments and beating these girls. And I was like, this is awesome. We'd go to like Junior Olympics. I remember one year we flew to Chicago for the Junior Olympics. I mean, because in judo, if you grab the person and throw them flat on their back, that's what the score called a pone. They put their hand like straight up like a pone. And that's the equivalent of like a knockout in MMA. Like the fight's over. So I would like my very first Junior Olympics, I was like 8 years old. I like ran out there, grabbed the girl, boom, throw on the back, won that fight. Second fight, go out there, boom. I mean, like 3 or 4 fights in a row. I mean, I must have fought maybe a total of like 30 seconds up to 45 seconds out of all these fights. And I won the Junior Olympics. And I was like, this is insane. My parents are like, we flew all the way to Chicago for you to fight for like 40 seconds. Like, obviously they were happy because I won, but still. Like,
you've won several state championships, national championships, collegiate national championships, Junior Olympics.
Yeah, Junior Olympics, U.S. Open, Senior National. I mean, you name it, I've probably. And I've traveled around this world, placed 5th at the Belgium Open. Like, just a lot of, I've been all over the place.
You had an undefeated streak there for a while too, as well.
In judo, yeah. When I was a kid, I think I went like 10. I don't know if it was 10 years, but I went like so many years without losing. It was, and I didn't actually. It's crazy because at the time I didn't realize it. Because you're so young, you're a kid. You just think, okay, we just you go to tournaments. But it must have been several years in a row that I just like first place, and we compete so often. Like there are judo tournaments all year long. And so, there's not a season in judo. It's like UFC or MMA, or it's all the time.
What sense of discipline did you gain from martial arts? Because you're not only doing judo, you were also doing gymnastics and cheerleading. You had to be able to compartmentalize those things separately from each other, but I'm sure there were parts of each you would find in the other, right?
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, like there's so much gymnastics and cheerleading. But the one thing I think I took from, because I was on very competitive cheer squads, which most of us were all ex-gymnasts too, you know what I mean? But I think one thing, the discipline I learned from gymnastics, gymnastics is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It's a very tough sport, but they train you to be just so mentally strong. You have to be, like, oh, I'm going to do a flip on this 4-inch beam on one leg and I have to land back on 2 legs. Okay, ready to go. Like, there's just like a different, or I'm going to swing on this bar. I have to let go, flip a few times and land on the ground and stick it. There's a lot that goes into it, and the training, the muscles you have to have. I mean, the strength you have to have is just, it's unreal. Like, I really truly believe that I got this like core strength from the gymnastics training at such a young age. And then doing all 3 of them together, it's just a different level. It's something you can't like gain as an adult. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I used to climb rows like up and down without legs, like perfect. I'd have my legs like perfectly in a straddle, not moving, go up and down. Our warm up was like 100 perfect pull ups. Like you couldn't even like have a little swing. It was like perfect chin above the bar and then slow down. And then V ups, like you just hang from the bar and bring your feet like toes to the bar. But I mean, you had to be perfect. Every single one had to be perfect. And I think that perfection of gymnastics really carried over to all my sports. Sometimes, in fighting, you can't, it's not impossible to be perfect because you never know what's going to happen in a fight. But I think that will and drive to strive to be perfect, I think has helped me technically, and just, it's really helped me all around. Definitely.
Yeah. So you're preaching to me at such a timely moment right now. My 15-year-old, she's about to turn 16, stepdaughter, she just finished her freshman year of high school. She just made the varsity cheer squad in her high school. And so she is constantly in our backyard on the trampoline or in the grass, practicing her tumbling, practicing her flips, because she's a flyer. So she's doing both cheer for sports, and she's also doing competitive cheer. And it's amazing to watch her evolve. And it's not even like a month-to-month thing. It is a day-to-day thing.
Yeah. There's so much that goes into cheerleading. Like, people have no idea. You said it was her high school varsity team she made?
She just made varsity. She did JV her freshman year. So
nice. So she's probably going to go to a summer camp for cheerleading, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. So those summer camps, I actually used to coach.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So when I first moved to the Olympic Training Center, I got hired by NCA, the National Cheerleading Association. So they worked great. Like, basically, you can kind of say when you're available. So when I didn't have judo tournaments, I would go only during the summer. I'd go and coach cheer camps around the country to it was a good job. It was fun. So.
How many interviews have you ever done whenever in the context of talking about fighting, the interview says, "Hey man, let's talk about cheer"?
Yeah, not too many. Most of the people are like, "Wow, cheerleading, huh?" But no, really, cheerleading was my life, man. I started cheering when I was a year and a half, or I think I was 13 months old, if I'm not mistaken, when I started cheerleading. Because my grandparents, like, I just come from a very football cheerleading family. Yeah. And my grandparents actually started like a youth football program in Los Angeles County. And so, my dad had me like carrying me in diapers, coaching football on the field. And my grandpa was there. And my grandma was like the cheer director, and my mom coached cheerleading. And my aunt coached everybody. It was just, that was our thing, man. I love cheerleading. And I love to see how it's evolved so much today. I haven't in a while, but I used to judge a lot of cheer competitions too, which I love. And yeah, I'm glad I haven't really done much with it since like MMA, but I love it still. I do. And I love, and I've coached, I've also coached gymnastics for so long too. And so it's just fun. I don't know. It's really fun to get like people to do things that they never thought they were capable of, and it's like, I can explain how to do a flip so easily and put them through the air and spot them accordingly because I've been there, done that. I know how to do it. And it's super rewarding to see. I bet you see your stepdaughter, like when she gets something new, it's probably like, oh, it's like so amazing.
I've seen her get into so many things in the many years that I've been in her life, but I've never seen a spark to fire like I've seen with her in cheerleading in the past year. And it's been amazing. So my hat's off to you because I know how much work is involved. And it's totally awe-inspiring. So that's fantastic. Let's talk about your transition into MMA because I know the international judo rules changed not too long ago, and that was about the same time you stopped competing in judo, correct?
Yeah, I was still competing, and they changed basically like you couldn't grab the legs anymore. And my original coach was from England, like I said, and he everything used to be like really bent over, a lot of leg grabbing, fireman's carries, stuff like that. And then they just like, hey, you can't touch the legs anymore, and you're like, come again? And you know, doing something from the time you were 7, you know what I mean? It's and you're like in your 20s, and they're like, oh, okay, now you're not gonna like grab the legs. It was tough, but you know, I really worked hard to like kind of get that, use my style with the new rules of judo and all that. So I do believe those last few years that I was doing judo to not grab the legs actually helped me a lot technically for judo, as well as with the sport, the throws that I didn't always do, you know what I mean? But yeah, and then I can be honest, like I was traveling the world, and I just remember I think I was in Argentina, or Uruguay. It was one of those two places. And I just remember like I was cutting weight so hard, and it was just, I don't know. I just realized that I got on the mat. I even did great, but I just remember being like, man, I don't love this anymore. Yeah. And you know, it's so much, it's your life, and you can't do that. Like if you don't love it. Fortunately, like, you know, with judo, like I grew up with Rhonda Rousey. I think I met her when I was probably like 9 or 10 years old, somewhere around there. And, you know, we were just great friends as kids and all that. She would come like sleep over at my house and like, you know, but then like when I think this was around the same time that Rhonda was really starting to I don't think she was in the UFC yet, but she was starting to like, you know, get that momentum and this and that. And I was like, wow, I was like, look, you can do judo and grab the legs if you do MMA. Like, you know, and it just, I don't know, really. I was just texting her and talking to her, and my coach Ed Liddy from the Olympic Training Center, he was like, well, I know you don't really know what you want like right now. And he could just tell, he could tell that like my heart was like hurting, you know, and he'd let me go home to Los Angeles for a whole month. I had not been home for a month since I moved there. No way were we ever allowed to go home that long, you know? And so I was like, what? Are you sure? Like,
right.
So I went home to LA, and then I went and I actually stayed with Rhonda for a little bit and just hung out with her, saw her new lifestyle. That's like also when I met like Nick Diaz and like all these other people, you know, and it was just like, I don't know, Rhonda, she's very persuasive, man. She was she was just telling me, she's like, you know, you're traveling the world, you're fighting. She's like, you might as well get paid for it. I was like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. All judo does is like drain your account. You know, I'd rather be putting money in there.
Right.
So
that had to be a really sensitive time too, because to go home for a month when you're in a transitional period in your life, it probably could have been really easy for you to get complacent and go the other way.
Yeah. You know, I really didn't know and I think I really just didn't know what I wanted at that time. Right. And at that moment, I hadn't chosen to do MMA yet. I actually went back to Colorado Springs, did a few more judo tournaments, did well. And I just remember being like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And I called Rhonda, and she's like, all right, when you get to LA, call me. I'll tell you where the gym's at, you know? And I said, okay, let's go. And that was it.
So in your transition into MMA, what kind of pointers did Rhonda give you as you started to grow as an MMA fighter? Because obviously you had to implement some other tools into the toolbox, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things she actually told me one of the first days I was on the mats, she was like, all right, you're going to stand with your right foot in front. And I was like, looking at her like all sorts of confused. I'm like, yeah, all right. And she was like, yeah, you're going to be a southpaw. I was like, all right. And I guess I just didn't understand. I didn't get it at the time. I was like, all right, in judo, I fight only with my right foot forward. So right. Even though I'm right-handed, in judo, if you're right-handed, you fight with your right foot forward. Like Rhonda's left-handed, and she fought MMA with her left foot forward.
Right.
And yeah, so and I was like, all right, let's do it. Like, okay, that was actually one of the best things she ever told me. I feel so comfortable as a southpaw. I don't think, and then I get comfortable too if I switch sides. I'm still comfortable because my power hand is still there.
Sure.
And I think one of my second pro fight, I think I knocked a girl out with a right hook, like a lead hook, but that was, or not knocked her out, I broke her jaw with a lead hook, but that was like, that's because I'm right-handed. That's a powerful arm up there, you know?
Right. And if you guys have not, and I'm talking to my listeners right now, if you guys have not, do a little YouTube search of Pita Macias, and I think it was in LFA whenever you did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I did not expect that. That's for sure. That girl was tough, man. I will say that girl was tough. The one thing I loved about that girl was she just always came forward, and I loved that was it. Like, she wanted to fight. You know, sometimes I fight girls that don't want to. They don't want to get thrown, so they run away, and it's like. But man, that girl didn't care. She came to bang, and I loved it.
You know, it's funny, and I probably shouldn't say this on the pod, but I'm going to anyways. I was messaging back and forth with Zach Pounga over the weekend because I got caught up on this current season of Ultimate Fighter. Yeah. I was like, okay, I'm loving this. I go, but I feel like everybody's fighting so cautiously with the exception of your initial fight. It's a hunger thing more than anything else.
You know, I honestly haven't watched The Ultimate Fighter this season yet.
Do it.
Yeah, I will. I'll get to it. But you know, I used to train with Zach a little bit, right. You know, or Cody Donovan and whatnot. And he always had that athlete mentality. He was easy to be around because he had that mentality, you know, and he has a family he has to provide for. He's going for it. You know what I mean? And this is just my opinion, but when it comes to the cautiousness, you can just tell, it's The Ultimate Fighter. These girls and guys, you know, one wrong mistake and you're done.
Right.
You know, and so I could see why people would be cautious, but in my mind, I'm like, look, you get one shot. Yeah. Go out there. Go for broke, you know? Who cares? If you lose, you lose. If you win, you win, you know? Yeah. I haven't I've lost a couple of fights, but I guarantee you every single fight was still exciting. I still threw the crap out of girls, you know? You have to go for it. Why be scared? I remember being in Judo and I was so concerned about making the Olympics that I remember fighting almost a little scared, and it really hindered my career, I believe. Yeah. So I'm so grateful now that I already I already went through all that. I already had an athletic career, and this is my second or another one. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I have this, and I know this is just so much more important than anything.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to have that catalyst to push you in the next direction or push you to the next level. Yep. And that leads me to ask, what is currently driving you in the state of your career right now?
I would say one thing, and I even think this is kind of recent, you know, but right now what's driving me more than anything is myself. I've never wanted to do something for myself, ever. I don't think, you know, obviously, you know, there's just so much in life. Of course, I want my partner and us to have a great life and all that. I want my family to be proud of me and this, but I've been through so much as an athlete. I've only been an athlete my entire life. You know, I went to college, I graduated, I did all that. I applied for the FBI at one point. I've lived life. This is what I love doing. You know, I love fighting, and I never thought I would love something more. When I was retiring from Judo, I never would have thought I'd love something more than Judo. But I started doing MMA, and it was oh my gosh, it was just brought this new fire out of me, you know, because Judo, I did the same sport for decades, you know. Now I'm in this new sport, and I can use the stuff that I still love, you know, in Judo, but now there's just so many more components. It's adding more pieces in the chess game, and it brings out my creative juices. I truly believe that's why we are martial artists. We are artists. Yes, we are athletes, but we are artists. You know, I go out there and I remember Rhonda and I would sometimes mess around after practice and just be well, if I do this and they could do this, and we could do this, and this person go here, but you know, and they would be or if they go here, he's the case, you know, and it was just all of our creative juices just coming out, and I think that's beautiful, and it keeps me, you know, everybody needs something, you know. Some people, you know, they have their hobbies and stuff, and you know, that gets their creative juices out, and this for me, this is it, and I get to get paid for it and do it, and it's not an easy life. I'm not saying it's an easy life. It's tough. It's really tough. It's probably the hardest life you can pick. You know, every day you have to go out there and get hit in the head and take falls and watch your weight, eat healthy. You know, it's just there's a lot that goes into it, and But man, I love it. I really do love it. And it's funny though, I don't like hurting people. I have
Right.
It's not my thing, but here's my thing. When we get in the cage, we both have signed a contract. So I'm okay with it. And I'm like, all right. And it's a different person. You know, when I go out to fight, it's a flip that switches. I'm not always like that. I'm not always that insane. Like, I'm not always that crazy. I don't like to fight for real, but I love MMA. Like, I love the sport, and I love it, man. And that's why I really realized it more recently. Not just how much I love it, but how much I want to do this for me, to prove to myself. I've been an athlete my entire life. It's time for me to prove to myself that I can make it big, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, which leads me to my another couple of questions here. Are you currently under contract with anybody?
I am, with LFA.
Perfect.
I have one more fight on that contract. So, and I don't have, I can't give too many details yet, but they did call and offer me a date. I don't have an opponent yet or anything, so very soon you'll be hearing about it. I'm so excited.
Awesome.
It's going to be a big one. It's going to be a big one for me, and I'm really, really excited.
I'm excited for you. So what do you do to unwind? You know, at the end of the day, you're done training. All this other stuff is going, you have to do something to decompress. What do you do?
Yeah. Well, Lynn, my partner and I, we're really good about, when we need to rest our minds, we rest our minds. Most of the time I come home and we get our dogs, we take them on walks, we do make really good food, and then we like to watch a lot of TV shows. Of course, I'm like every other person that loves all the murder mysteries and all that. True crime, I'm on it.
That's awesome.
I love that. So, there's just that. I would say that's one thing. But now that we moved to Vegas, sometimes if I have even if I just have an overnight available, we'll finish training, we'll drive to LA and go, or actually Lancaster, it's my parents live, and we'll go stay for the night and just get to be with my family. My little sister's 9, so it's kind of nice to be around her all the time. Well, I mean, more often, because I was gone. I've been gone I moved out of home when I had just turned 18, and then I moved to the Olympic to Colorado Springs, and after that, I was just gone. I came back to LA for a couple of years when I started MMA, then I was gone again.
Wow.
So.
That's awesome. So what's your advice for making the world a better place right now?
Kindness. There are some really, I hate hearing all this crazy stuff going on in the world, and kids are mean. So when I was a kid, I really had a hard time getting along with other kids, because I'm well, why don't you want to be the best in the world? Why don't you want to be the greatest athlete that ever? I literally remember being 7 years old, and the only thing I ever wanted was to be the greatest athlete that ever lived. And I couldn't understand other kids. And these kids were mean. Kids were mean to people because that kid is fat, because that kid was a dork or whatever. And I was the kid that would defend all of them, because I don't understand being mean. Why?
Right.
And I truly believe if people just take a step back and be just be nice. Why do you have to be a mean person,
Right.
So,
It's almost like you were the bully's bully.
Yeah, I was kind of, even though I was tiny. I was always the shortest in class, but nobody ever messed with me because I was ripped and
That's amazing. Where can my listeners find you online?
On Instagram. My Instagram is Pauline Pita Macias. All one word. My Facebook, I believe, says Pauline Pita Macias as well. And then, so I have to check Twitter because somebody hacked into my Twitter and I had to make another one. And I think it's Pita Macias MMA, but I'll have to check that. And then my TikTok too, I had to redo it. I actually don't know what my TikTok name is either. But for sure, Instagram, I'm on Instagram a lot. So
perfect.
Pauline Pita Macias, come follow me, ask me questions. I'm always here. I don't know. Some people I've heard recently, people were oh, I just thought you were a bitch. I was oh. I was okay. I know that, but I'm really not. I hate being mean.
I will say my experience with you over the past half hour or so is quite the opposite. I think the world is a better place with you in it. And
thank you.
You and Lynn ever find yourself in Lincoln, Nebraska, there's a seat at my table.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing the show.
When you come to Vegas, then you have to hit us up.
Yes!
There we go.
I got to make a point to get out to Vegas. I got to make a point to get to Colorado again here soon. So
yeah, you'll have to come to the gym and watch some sparring or something fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Pita, thank you for doing the show. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this was fun. This one was easy. This was great.
Once again, I want to thank my new friend Pauline Pita Macias for doing the show today. It was a lot of fun. She's a lot of fun. I plan on having her on the show sometime again in the near future, hopefully after her next fight with LFA. Please search her out on social media and look up some of her work on YouTube. It's all there. It is awesome. If you're in the mood for checking out online content, please give me a follow on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, wherever you search out your favorite social media, and give me that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and you can even give me a review on Facebook. I'll take it. You can also check out my website at www.caughtonthemic.com. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.